up in a minute. I would like to welcome our students from South Buffalo Charter School and our students from the School of the Nations in Brazil. We will learn a little bit more about those schools in a moment. So I would like to bring up Jen to introduce South Buffalo Charter School.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. We want to welcome to campus and through Zoom, third graders from South Buffalo Charter School and their teachers. South Buffalo Charter School is located in the country of the United States of America, in the state of New York, and in the city of Buffalo. And it might be fun for our new friends from Brazil to know that South Buffalo Charter School sits right next to the Buffalo River, which flows to Lake Erie, over Niagara Falls, and out to the Atlantic Ocean. We want to give a very special thank you to Mrs. Taft, the librarian at South Buffalo Charter School, for organizing and facilitating an author study of Amy Ludwig VanDerwater's work. And we are just so very happy to have you here with us today. So if everybody from South Buffalo Charter School could give a big wave to our new friends in Brazil. And if you're in the classroom here, you have to turn around actually and wave at that camera on the wall, okay?
Oh,
there you go. Now you can see it. Yeah, good job. Okay, you can turn back around. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to hear a little bit about the School of the Nations.
Morning. So I feel ill-equipped to announce the School of the Nations here. I'm not from there, I do not work there. However, I have had the privilege of partnering with the administrators at that school for several years. So the School of the Nations is in Brasilia, Brazil. Anybody have any idea where that is? Yeah?
In South America?
It's in South America, yes, very good. So it's kind of on the eastern coast of South America there. So I want to give a big thank you to all of our partners at the School of the Nations. Keith is our elementary school principal there. Barbara is the librarian who helped us to coordinate all of this, and all the teachers that helped to make this all possible. Thanks a lot for your participation, and we're really happy to see you today. This is a very exciting event for us.
And now I'd like to tell you a little bit more about our special guest today, Amy Ludwig VanDerwater. Amy has written several children's books, including Forrest Has a Song, which she will share with us today. She has also written 2 books for teachers about writing poetry. Amy lives in an old farmhouse in the country in the town of Holland near Buffalo, New York. Amy says that she's happiest when she's making things like cookies or poems. Besides writing poetry, Amy likes to knit mittens, bake bread, read books, snuggle with dogs, sleep in a tent, and walk in the forest. Her love for these simple, everyday things shines through in her beautiful poetry. Please join me in welcoming the wonderful Amy Ludwig VanDerwater.
Charter School students, and hello students from the School of the Nations in Brazil. It's so good to see you. We've been talking about you and thinking about you because we were here a little early chatting, and so I'm going to share a little bit of poetry with you, and then I know you have some questions, and I know that the students at the School of the Nations have written a lot of poems, and I'll share a few tips with everybody about writing poems too. So I'm just going to sit in this little cozy chair, and if you're off to the edges and you can't see what I show you, feel free to slide in. You're welcome to do that when I hold the book up. So I do live in a town called Holland that is in a very, very old farmhouse from more than 200 years old. And yeah, there's a lot of wildness out there. There's a lot of forest and a lot of animals. And so it's really easy to go, like my cat can lay down in the middle of the road and not get hit. You can take a nap in the middle of the road for 2 hours and nobody comes because it's so quiet there. And what's really nice about being outside anywhere in the city or in the country is that there's so much to see. So if you live in the city, And you get to watch all the people and you can see all the kinds of birds that are in the city and all the kinds of plants that are in the city and all the different shops. And if you live out in the country, you see different things. And so I keep notebooks. And I don't know if anybody here or any of our friends in Brazil have ever had a notebook that you've carried around with you. Has anybody here had a notebook that you like that maybe it's not for school, it's just for you? And what about in Brazil? Any of our friends there have a notebook that you've kept or that you've carried around? And I bring them with me. And you can see I have it today because when I go home, what I'll do is I'll write about you. Because anything that happens in my life, I jot it down. And I have very messy handwriting, and that's okay. I cross out a lot. Sometimes I glue things in, and then I keep these books, and sometimes they turn into those books. But a lot of times they don't. A lot of times they just are for me. And I just read my memories, and I can hold on to them. I want to start actually with a poem from this book. So this is a book called Read, 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 and it's all poems about reading. Because the way I see it, it's kind of like we can have lots and lots and lots of different lives. So we all have this life, right? Like everybody, feel your legs, feel your cheeks, right? Like wiggle your fingers, right? You have this life that's your body and you're right here. We're all here in the same room together with people who are in Brazil. You're here with us. Our bodies are here. But then tonight, when I go home, I have a book that I'm reading. How many of you have a book that you're reading right now that you kind of can't wait to get back to? Yeah, and when I go home, I have that book, and that's like my second life. So my first life is what my body does, and my second life is whatever happens in my book. And then my third life, I get to make up by writing. And those of you who make art, some of you who make art or make music, that's another kind of life. So if my real life is kind of a bad day, I can say, oh, I go in my reading life. Do you have some other lives too? Yeah, right? And the things that you love to do can be a different kind of life. And I did make a poem about this, about having the second life, the reading one that I'd like to share with you. And this book goes along with a book called Write, Write, Write. It's all about writing. So this is called Double Life. A book gives you a double life. It builds a treehouse in your head, a haven you can climb to when you wish to get away. A book will always be a friend, reaching out two wordy hands, offering enchanted lands. You can be and go who and where you've never been. The cover opens, you are born. Let your double life begin. And I've never been to Brazil, but I can read a book about Brazil and it's like going. So when you go back to your library, South Buffalo Charter students, you could maybe take out a book about Brazil and then say, oh, my body's not there, but my second life is there. And our friends in Brazil, same thing. You could look up Buffalo on the internet and say, wow, my body's not there, but it's like I have my second life is there. And that's really why I love reading and writing so much, because I get to have all these extra lives. And today somebody asked me a good question. They said, what's your first book? Well, the first thing I should tell you is I kind of can't believe that I was so lucky to get to make these books. If I wasn't so lucky to get to make these books though, I would still write all the time because I just like it. I don't write because it's exciting to have a book that gets made, but it's even more exciting to me to write a new thing. And I don't make the art in any of my books. So all these books you see, they have the title on the spine, they have the author's name, they have the illustrator's name and the publisher's name. And I like to draw, but I haven't illustrated any of my own books. And here's something you might not know. I don't know how this works in Brazil, but here in the United States, if you want to have a book published, here's what happens. At least the way it happens for me. I write by hand first. Some people type first. And when it's so messy, I can't read it. I cross out a lot. Anybody here cross out a lot? Anybody in Brazil, you cross out a lot when you write? Don't feel badly if you cross out. That means that you're really trying to make it great. And so I do all that, and then I type it, and then I send it to a book publisher. And a lot of times they say, no, we don't want to make your book. We already did a Forrest book, or we don't like it. And so then I cry for a day, but I don't even cry anymore. It's kind of like not getting on a team. I just say, oh, well, I'll try again. Or maybe it's just, I need to do it better. And I keep on going back. But then what happens is if they do say, yes, we'll make it a book, then I'm really happy. But then it's like a surprise who the illustrator will be. So the book company finds an artist and then they tell me who it is and you never meet. So the person, Robin Gorley, who illustrated Forrest Has a Song, we never met each other. So she decided that there would be a girl on the front and she decided that there would be a dog on the front. I didn't decide that. I didn't see any of the pictures until she was all done. And it was just a big surprise. And they all were big surprises. And I've been very lucky because I thought the art was beautiful in my books. But sometimes an author could be disappointed, but it's too bad. Now, if you're an artist, then you might illustrate your own book too. And, or let's say in a book that I wrote, maybe something in one of the pictures, I felt like, there was one book I wrote where somebody I thought should look sad from what the writing said, but the artist made the person look happy. And so then I said, do you think maybe you could change that? I asked, but not the artist. I'm not allowed to talk to the artist. I asked the book company, they asked the artist. So that was interesting. But Forrest Has a Song is my first book. And I wrote it because I live out far in the country and my children were young. I wrote it in 2005. So it's almost 20 years old, much older than all of you. But then it didn't become a book until 2013. So the book company said, yes, we'll make it a book, but it took 7 years from when I was done till this was done, which was a pretty long time. I don't know if you're patient. I'm not very patient, but you learn to be patient. So I wrote this because I love nature and I love being outside. And all of the things in this book, all of our friends at the School of Nations, if you come to Buffalo sometime or to Western New York, you could see anything that's in this book because these are all things that we can find. And while we might not find them on the city streets of Buffalo, if we go to Tift Nature Preserve or to a forest park, many of these things we can find. So I'll read you some of these and then I have some other poems to read to you too. So this first one, here's a pine cone. You ever found one of these?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what pine cones, they fall off of pine trees and they fold all up. And then when they open up, the seeds inside fall out on the ground. And if you walk in the forest and find a pine cone, it's a little bit like walking along the beach and finding a shell. And so this book starts with invitation. Today I heard a pine cone fall. I smell a spicy breeze. I see forest wildly waving, rows of friendly trees. My dear, come visit, please. This is a little invitation from the forest. Come see me. Now, this is a little funny. Here, have you ever gone for a walk in the woods and found a piece of old wood that's so dead, it's just really soft? Like this is an old dead wood here. We'll talk more about this one later. So this has all these holes in it, but if you stuck your fingernail in here, like it's soft. I can break a piece off and it's sort of fun when you, look at that. Do you see that? See how my pants have all that dust on it? Old wood like that. So soft, you can just break it apart. And once I went on a hike and I found a piece of old dead wood. It's so squishy, exactly. And I brought it back and I gave it to my daughter to play with. And she, you know what she said? She said, this is more fun than playing with my friend. And so now she's a grown-up and we tease her. We say, don't tell your friend that a piece of old dead wood is more fun than playing with her. But it is fun because it's so soft. And so that's why I wrote this dead branch. Spongy, springy stick. I pick it into thin bits. Slivers sail the wind. And it's just a very short little poem. And poems can be long or they can be short. Some of my poems rhyme, some don't. What mostly matters to me with a poem though, is that it falls down the page. I always say it falls down the page like a waterfall a little bit. Whereas if you write a story, it goes all the way across, all the way across, all the way across. And I thought it might be kind of fun to look at a few birds from here because I don't know what the birds look like in Brazil. I'm kind of hoping that maybe our Brazilian friends will send some pictures of birds that are there. But here in New York, we have lots of different birds. And one of them, you might know who this is. This is a cardinal. And this is a male cardinal. If the males are bright red, and you can see them all winter. And there is a poem in Forrest Has a song about a cardinal. They're very beautiful. And even when it snows here, because we get a lot of snow in Western New York, you can see the beautiful cardinals against the white snow. We have a couple other birds I wanted you to see because people confuse them sometimes. These two, I bet many of you know who this is, right? This is a blue jay. And a blue jay is kind of a bossy bird. It says, jay, 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 and it steals all the food at the bird feeder. And so this is a blue jay. This is not a blue jay, even though it's blue. This is a blue bird. You see they're different, right? And bluebirds we won't see so much in the city. They want to live out in the fields. They like to be like right at the edge of a field. And they're very beautiful and not bossy. But blue jays are bossy. So wait a minute. Who was this again?
Cardinal.
Yes. And who is
Blue
this?
jay.
Blue jay. Excellent. And who's this?
Bluebird.
Yeah. Now, this one here, I'll give you a hint for this one. You didn't even need it. This one, exactly. This is a woodpecker. And here in Western New York, we have many kinds of woodpeckers. And one kind we have is called a pileated woodpecker that looks like this. They're bigger in real life, but they have this kind of head. And they peck for a couple reasons. One of the reasons they do is they're trying to say, hey, all you other woodpeckers, this is my territory. Go away, I'm making a nest here. But another reason they peck is if a tree is dead, then bugs want to go in and eat inside. And so what the woodpecker does is it wants the bugs. So when you go for a walk, if you see a dead tree, you might see it has really big holes and sometimes wooden sawdust on the ground. Yeah, have you seen one before? Yeah. And now this one, you might recognize who this is. This, our friends at School of the Nations, is a chickadee. And a chickadee says a couple different things. One thing it says is its own name. So I'll say it, then you say it. Ready? Chickadee-dee-dee. Chickadee-dee-dee. Chickadee. And then it also has a little pretty song. And it sounds like this. CJ. 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 Exactly. And what they do is a very tiny, this is a big stuffed animal, but in real life, I don't know, look at your finger. Your index finger, it's maybe about that long. They're small. And they stay all winter. And if you ever hear that little CJ song, you know it's a chickadee. Now, I wanted to show you who?
Cardinal.
Bluebird, excellent. And then exactly. And
Woodpecker.
because all those birds will not do something very special that a chickadee will do. And that is this. And if you've read this poem, you know what it is. Put your hand out. Oh, you know, put some sunflower seeds on, not the salty kind that we like, but the kinds that birds like. They're just black, they don't have salt on them. Not the kind we eat at a baseball game. And then put your hand out. And then let your other hand be chickadee. And the chickadee will know that you have those seeds because it can see them. And it comes. Oh, it's too scary. But it really wants them. So it comes. It's still too scary. But then when it gets really brave, it comes and let it tickle your hand a little bit and take the seed. And chickadees really will do that. And so here, and I'm wondering if in Brazil there are any birds who will eat out of your hand. I didn't know that chickadees did this until I was an adult. And we went to a park here in Buffalo, and you can look it up and go there, and you can look it up and maybe come here someday, called Tift Nature Preserve. And the chickadees there are so smart. They know that people feed them. So as soon as you put your hand out, they come. They just come, and it tickles. And the first time I ever fed one, here's what happened. I had a feeling like this. Well, here, could you please take this, everybody? This is a glass. It's just a glass. Take one, our friends at Brazil. And here's a pitcher of water. Take the pitcher of water, everybody. And now fill the glass up to the top. Now pour more in. What happens? It's spilled out the top, right? That's what happens to me as a writer. I get a feeling like this. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this chickadee ate out of my hand. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that it ate right out of my hand. I don't even know what to do. And the feeling fills me up and then it spills up. But I don't just let it spill out in the air. I spill it out here. I say, I'm so happy. I have to write this down. Some people say, I'm so happy. I need to make a painting or I want to make a song. But I like to write down my happiness. And so this poem has two parts. One part is the person part and one part is the chickadee part. And you can see when you look at poems, that poems sometimes have these, they're kind of like the paragraphs of poems, like a chunk, and they're called the stanzas. So the first one is the person and the next is the chickadee. Come, fly here. I have some seeds. Fly here, sit on my hand. I will not hurt you, chickadee. Fly here, it's safe to land. I'm watching, I'm thinking, I'm scared of you, child. I'm used to flying free, but you are small. Your hand is still. Are all those seeds for me? And in this poem, I pretended to be a chickadee, even though I'm really not one. And you can pretend something else. So maybe, let's see, maybe if I lived in Brazil, I could look up animals that live in Buffalo and learn about them and then write a poem pretending I was one. Or if I went to the South Buffalo Charter School, I could look up animals in Brazil, do a little research, and then write about them. Here's one about finding tracks. Have any of you ever found tracks, like you've gone for a walk and you've seen maybe in the mud or maybe in the snow here, what it could be? Yeah, when you find tracks, you can almost be like a little detective and tell who has been here. So sometimes you could see tracks of wings in the snow and know that maybe a hawk came down and got a mouse. Got it, and you can tell it just swooped away. Sometimes you can see deer footprints and know just where they went. So this is about that. It's called Forest News, like a newspaper on snow. I stopped to read the forest news in mud or fallen snow. Articles are printed by critters on the go. Foxes pass. Deer run through, turkeys scratch for hidden food. Young raccoons drink sips of creek, mouse and hawk play hide and seek. Here a possum whiskery wild climbs a tree trunk with his child. And in this place, while people sleep, a rabbit hops, a house cat creeps. Scribbled hints of footprints tell about the day. I stopped to read the forest news before it's worn away, because there will be new things tomorrow. There are some ferns, fossils. Have any of you ever found a fossil before? Oh, have you? And here we have another great place in Buffalo that's also free. It's called Penn-Dixie, and you can go to this place and they have you been there? And they have all these rocks, and then inside, when you break them open, they have fossils. So they have the imprints of animals that once lived. And at this place, it's called Penn-Dixie. And when you go there, you can bring fossils home, bring a whole bag of them home. And I think what's amazing about fossils is when you hold one and you find one, it's almost like the whole past comes back to life. It's like that animal lived maybe millions of years ago. And no one saw it inside that rock until I opened it up. So this is about that fossil. I dug in the creek bed. I dug and I found a grandfather fossil asleep underground. He whispered a story of creatures in sand. I listened as trilobites filled up my hand. For one flicker minute, they tickled my palm. Alive for an eye blink, forever dead calm. Now, were they really alive? They were not really alive. But one of the reasons I also really like to write is you can pretend anything. You can make something up and make it really happen. This is about a tree frog. Ask me another tree frog to marry it. They don't really get married, but they're so noisy in the spring. So I wrote about that, and a lady slipper is a very unusual, beautiful flower you can find sometimes. This one is about spider, and this one's about sleeping animals. I did write a book about animals sleeping because have you ever watched an animal sleep? Maybe a pet? Has anybody here ever watched a kitty sleep or a dog sleep or a bunny or a horse sleep somewhere? They're so cute, and you always wonder, what are they dreaming about? This is called dusk. Sleep tight baby animals, so small, so full of zest. Burrow in a burrow, nestle in a nest. Snuggle in a tree trunk, crawl beneath a stone, cuddle with a mama, huddle all alone. Peek out at the sunset, winking way out west. You'll meet the sun with running fun. It's night now, hush now, rest. I'm gonna come back to this one at the end. About finding some bones and waiting for deer. Now, deer are beautiful. Do you ever see deer anybody here when you're driving around sometimes, maybe crossing the road? We have to be careful. Here we have what are called white-tailed deer, and they're very beautiful, and people hunt them sometimes because when you hunt a deer, the meat is called venison. And some of you may have tried it before, but deer, we do have to be careful near roads. Have you had it before?
No, but when we're moving to the country, my dad, he likes to go and he likes to go get apples from our refrigerator and throw them in.
Okay, for the deer? Yes, so you can feed, they love apples and they like to lick salt and they're very gentle. And so sometimes people hunt them and eat them, but I used to have a friend and he hunted in a very different way. And that's why I wrote this poem. I knew him when I was in high school, and this is what he would do. He didn't hunt them to kill them. He just wanted to see how close he could get. So he would go into the forest, and if they hear you, if animals in the forest hear you, they usually will run away because they know, you're kind of a predator to them. So he would just wait very still till he wasn't making any sounds, until the deer came out again, and he would try. It was like a gentle form of hunting. He would just try to touch one. And I remembered that for like 40 years. And when I wrote this down, I remembered him doing that. And he doesn't know, because I haven't talked to him in 40 years, probably, maybe 35. So you can remember things from now and write them when you're a grown up. So this is called Waiting for Deer. Quite quietly, I'm sitting here 9 minutes now and still no deer. I look ahead, I look behind, I look around, again I find no deer. No deer, no deer. Surprise! A fawn is staring in my eyes. Do you know what a fawn is, South Buffalo students? You can all say it if you know. A baby deer. So the name for a baby deer is a fawn, and a fawn might be a little braver with humans. Another one, since we live in the country, it's kind of funny when we live in the country, when we look to buy our house, lots of times people, when they buy a house, they say, oh, I want my house to have a special kitchen or something. Well, my husband wanted a different thing. He said, I want a house that when you roll over the log in the yard, you find salamanders. Do you know what salamanders are? They're kind of like little lizardy creatures, and they can be orange or brown. So we had to go to all these houses and roll over the logs in the creek and see if there were salamanders there. Well, what's interesting, and that is true, teachers, what's interesting, and we are still married. What's interesting is that in a log, if there is a rotten dead log like this, we already talked about how helpful it can be for woodpeckers, right? Because they get all the bugs in there. Well, it's not just them. Other animals make homes in dead trees. They're very helpful for the environment. So if I have a tree that fell down, if it's not dangerous, and I have room, it's good to leave it there so that animals can make use of it. So this is called home. A rotten log is home to bug, home to beetle, home to slug, home to chipmunk, home to bee. A lively, living, hidden home inside a fallen tree. Now, I'd like to tell you something funny about this picture. So I told you I never met the artist, and I think that the art that she made is beautiful. And when the book came, my daughter Georgia was very young, and I read her the book. And this is what she said, and you'll see why. You see this log? It's like a big down tree, and it's hollow. And the dog is on this side looking in, and there's another creature on this side, little eyeballs coming out. And my daughter was very little, and she said, Mommy, that's a really long dog. She was so tiny, she thought this little tail was connected to these eyes, and then it was a dog that was as long as a snake. But really, the dog is curious, right? The dog wants to see what's happening there. Now, this is one, if my friends at South Buffalo Charter School may have read this and wondered what this is. And I think it will be new to our friends at the School of the Nations too. So I brought one to show you. This is kind of a neat thing, watch. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Right? It doesn't smell, so don't worry. This is, I know, it's a strange thing. It's a kind of a mushroom. It's called a puffball. And it's just, you know, inside, it's a kind of a mushroom. And when you first find it, it's just like a little ball. This is a dried up one, and it's on the ground. So puffballs, they don't grow on trees. They just sort of are on the ground. And they're brown, light brown, and then they turn dark. And they are just there. And inside, do you know how sometimes here we find dandelions? And that is a flower where it has all the seeds, and we can blow the seeds away. You might have some things like that at the School of the Nations, some plants with seeds, or milkweed pods. You might have seen those with the wishes. Well, inside this are spores. And so if this is on the floor of the forest, it's just there all dried out. And when the fox, right? Hello, is going for a little walk, he doesn't really notice it because it's brown, like the dirt. And when he goes for his little walk, steps on it, it puffs. And when it puffs, that spores inside, they all go flying into the air, just like other seeds do. And then they fall into the ground, and then it's sunny, and then it's rainy and sunny and rainy. And next year, there will be more little puffballs. So if you ever find one and you are at a place where there's some grass, you can puff it, and maybe it will make puffballs there. And you never really want to eat mushrooms that you find, because mushrooms can be poisonous and if you don't recognize them. But my husband, who loves salamanders, is a mushroom expert. And so he taught me that you can actually eat puffballs. So sometimes we eat them, but you don't eat them when they're like this. It's when they're fresh. So this is a poem about a puffball, but I need everybody's help, okay, from both schools. Are you ready? So because the most fun thing about puffballs is puffing them, I wrote this poem, and it repeats, bless you, it goes down the page, just like a waterfall, but it repeats. Poems use a lot of repetition, and it repeats the word puff. So when I hold it out like this, I'm going to ask you to say puff. Are you ready? It's going to be a lot of times. The poem is called
Puff.
I Found One. It's plump. Come see this forest pump. It's spitting spore on spore. I'm squeezing more and more. Smoke scatters summer air. Oh, babies everywhere. Exactly. And so these are neat to find, but when you're walking in the woods, you might miss it, right? Because it's sort of camouflaged in with the ground and with the dirt. So that was one of my kind of other ones that I felt like, this is so much fun. I love puffing it so much. I need to write all about it. And so I did. Oh, here's one. We talked about this, so I thought it would be good to let you see it. So when woodpeckers are pecking away, where is our little friend? There it is. Right? When you look here and you see the holes, that they almost look, sometimes they're big like this, but sometimes they're just small, And I thought when I saw them, they made me think of like a code, like a secret code, like the woodpecker was giving a message. And so this one is about that. And you can see the woodpecker in the picture. Woodpecker, in a red cap, he types poems with his beak upon the tree. Ho, 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 ho. Secretly, I'm hoping he will translate one for me, because I don't read woodpecker language. So I don't read Portuguese either. So I would like to have you translate your poems, and the woodpecker could translate poems for us too.
Yeah, one of the woodpecker knows how to read and write and speak English.
I know, we can read and write and speak English, and our friends at the School of the Nations, they can read and write and speak in Portuguese and in English. So just like when you're a little bit older here and you go to middle school, maybe, is that when you get to take another language besides English? That would be very exciting. So the book goes through the seasons, and I will read you this snow one and the cardinal one before we come back to the owls. Snow here in Western New York is very beautiful, and not everybody lives in a place where there's snow. And everyone, look at your fingerprints right now. Like the tips of your fingers. If we had magic markers right now, and I put magic marker on everybody's fingerprint and we stamped them, nobody's fingerprints would be the same. And that is the same with snowflakes. If you look at every single snowflake, none of them are matches. And so this is about that, snowflake voices. I like to walk outside alone in winter woods behind my home. I close my eyes to softly hear snowy voices crystal clear. Each silver snowflake sings my name. Guess what? No two sound the same. Oh, read this one. Back to the owls, because I have two puppets for these owls. And this is another one where you get to pretend. So, how many of you have ever seen an owl at night? We have lots of different kinds of owls here where we live. I'm kind of curious about the kinds of owls that there are near the School of the Nations. And owls come out at night. They're nocturnal. They come out at night. That's when they fly. That's when they hunt. And for this one, I'm not an owl. It'd be fun to be one for one day, wouldn't it? But I can imagine in that third world of writing what it would be like to be one. And I am a mom. So I've watched my children do brave things like learn to ride a bike and learn to drive a car and all those things, even learn to walk. And so one day I was thinking, I wonder what it would be like to be a little owl and fly for the very first time. Would that be super scary? Maybe. So this poem, like the chickadee one, has two voices. Baby owl, I'm scared. The mommy owl, you can do it. And this one looks kind of like a real great horned owl. They do look like this. And they can move their heads all around, right, for their hunting.
Yeah, they could.
So you'll hear two voices. First flight. Mommy, I'm scared to be this high. Oh, owls are scared on their first try. My tail feathers feel so tingly with fear. You can do it. Calm down. Careful now. Steer. I can't see a thing through all this black. Just fly to spruce and then right back. Flap, 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 whoosh. Flap, 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 swoosh. Look, Mom, I made it. Wow, I can fly. I knew you could. You were born for sky. And all animals learn to do things just like we do, right? Just like we do. And so the final, if you remember, just what seems like a few minutes ago, we all had this invitation to come visit the woods. And the very last poem is the forest saying goodbye to us. Farewell. Forest breathes a spicy breeze. It blows into my ear. When you go home, do not forget my leaves, my song, my dear. Remember, I am forest. Remember, I am here. And wherever we live, we all have different nature, but you know, it was just Earth Day last week. Did you know that? Yeah, and the best thing that we can do for our planet is to go outside and enjoy it. Like if I go outside in a parking lot, there will be coming up through the crack, a dandelion. There will be a bug, there will be a pigeon, there will be a tree, there will be something always that is outside in the sky. So I encourage all of you, get out there. And also, writing outside is the best. So I recommend a little bit of writing outside too. So we have some poets who are going to share with us, is that right?
Yeah. It's fabulous. Thank you so much, Amy. We learned so much. Let's give her another round of applause.
I feel like I just want to hear what they said.
They were such great listeners. And now we would like to share some poems with Amy and ask her a few questions.
So should I be here?
You can come on up on
I'll
the
be
chair.
back. Okay.
Who's making poems?
Okay, so we are so excited. We have 3 students who will be sharing their poems today, 2 from the School of the Nations and 1 from South Buffalo Charter School. And I apologize if I mispronounce anybody's name. Please correct your name for me and then also share the name of your poem and then read your poem. Our first poet is from room 3B at the School of the Nations. His name is Vitor, and we are so excited to hear your poem. So unmute and we will be listening.
I'm gonna present the poem. The clock. Miss asked me to write. A poem didn't come to my mind. And when I saw the clock, the watch says tick-tock. When I need to use alliteration, I feel like an alligator with obligation. When I need to use repetition, I feel like I'm doing addition.
Sharing that with us. What a fun poem. You had so many sounds in that poem that were fun to hear and would be fun to read out loud. I bet you enjoyed reading that. We sure enjoyed hearing it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next poet is from room 3C, Leticia, who will be reading us her poem in Portuguese. Brandon, do we not have sound?
It sounds like they can't hear me either.
Or they can't hear their own school.
Yeah, sorry, we can't hear. Barbara, I see you also saying maybe you can't hear. Oh, okay.
I sent Morgan a message. I'm hearing you okay now. I sent
Okay.
Morgan a message saying that we cannot hear them.
No.
Could you go to Barbara?
Yeah, if it's close enough by, maybe the student can come to you, Barbara. Sorry.
This will be fun for us.
Okay, looks like they're gone.
Do you want, you could do the poem here while we're waiting?
Sure.
Or-
Sure, yeah.
So our poet.
Oh, Barbara's going first, okay.
Which one?
Those.
just stay tuned for a minute.
It's pretty amazing when you think.
She's going to another classroom where is working the microphone.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Maybe we'll just wait, yeah, we'll just wait.
So when we hear this one in Portuguese, maybe it's possible that later we could hear it translated into English, maybe not now, but we receive a copy, so we'll enjoy the sound, even though we won't know what it means, unless, are there any adults in the room who speak Portuguese? Any students who speak Portuguese? I do not. So I look forward to hearing the music of it.
I know. They haven't unmuted yet. I see them.
Here, it's almost 11 o'clock, and there it's almost noon. They are 1 hour ahead of, even though it's so far away.
So they're 11, so
Okay.
they're at
Looks like they
11:46.
Yeah.
Okay, we see you there now, but it looks like you're still muted, so.
No, we're just opening her poem right now into her
Okay,
computer.
okay.
And it'll be ready in 1 second. I apologize.
No, that's okay. We can hear you now, so that's good.
She was also asking if she could read her English poem as well, because she wanted to read both. Can she do it quickly?
Yes.
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
sure.
Okay,
Are they two
a
different
little bit
poems?
nervous, so. Okay. Leticia, you want to sit here? Okay, we're almost. Here. I'm gonna go quick.
There it is in English.
Oh.
This is the translation.
So, right here. Her first poem is called, The Sleepy Forest. Can you see? There you go. Read loud.
But she'll read it in Portuguese.
She needs to face the.
Sorry, we're gonna need it
Okay.
louder or towards the
I can't
microphone.
read it. Okay, here we go. Can you read, can you see her? Yeah. We're gonna go down. Okay, and now you gotta speak up louder, honey.
Midnight in the dark deeps of the forest. Here comes the creature of the heart of the dark, the wolf. He howls through the trees and the forest in a deep sleep. The crickets sing their lullaby. Beep, beep, beep. The little birds leap in the comfort of their mom's nest. The forest sleeps peacefully like a sweet dream.
Okay, and then her Portuguese.
Quero que salve-se que nós sem a parede. Que nos rio a corrente, que hidrata os animais e faz bem para a gente, polui jamais. Ela faz bem que pó, que é muito saudável, é para viver e nadar nela é agradável. Você já sabe o que é?
Did you guys understand that? And
First poem took us on a whole little journey. It's like we got to take a trip to that forest with that wolf. And can you tell us, are you water? Is the answer to your riddle poem water?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Look at her poem. Can we slide it back down? Are we able to do that? Guess, what is it that goes down and goes up, that waters, that wets, and in the cloud appears, in the river is current, that hydrates animals, and it's good for us, never pollute. It sounds plink and plunk, it's very healthy, it's important to live and swimming, and it is pleasant. You know what that is? All right, we knew it was water. Students at the South Buffalo Charter School, you could do that. You could think of a secret word
and then make a riddle about it and see if people could guess. And we have a fourth here.
Yes, we do. So come on up, Haley. Haley is from South Buffalo Charter School. We'll have you sit in the post chair there. And she is going to be sharing a poem written by Rashawn at South Buffalo Charter School. Take it away, Haley.
The morning brings sunshine, the trees bring leaves. Every time I look outside, I see leaves. When leaves fall off the tree, wow, that's all I see. Birds are chirping, the sky is blue, the birds sing who.
Is Hassan here?
No, he is at the school.
Well, thank you for reading that poem so beautifully, and thank you for letting us hear your poem. It created such a mood and all those sounds. It's like a song.
Wonderful. So next we have some questions
Yes.
for you. So we'll be starting our questions at the School of the Nations. We're starting with room 3A. Floor has a question.
Hi, Flora.
Hi, I'm Flora. My question is, how much time does it take you to think of a poem and write it?
I have the question somewhere. I have a hard time hearing.
Sorry, are you able to say it one more time a little louder?
Yeah, maybe near the microphone.
Hi, I'm Floor. My question is, how much time does it take you to think of a poem and write it?
Or that is such an interesting question. And the answer is, it's different for me. It's different all the time. So sometimes I might be just taking a walk and I see something and I think that would be a good idea for a poem. And I don't just sit and think when I'm alone. Like when I'm out doing my life, that first one, I'm paying attention all the time. Writing a poem sometimes can be fast. Like maybe I sit down and I write one and I come back to it later and look at it again, and maybe I work on it for a half an hour. And sometimes I might come back to the same poem again and again and again for days and days and days. But here's the tip for me. It always is better if I write every day, then it's easier for me to write poems. If I stop doing it for a long time, kind of like people who exercise, if they stop doing it, then it's harder to go back. And for me with writing, if I do it every day, it's easier. Thank you for that great question.
Great. The next question is from room 3B. This is a question from Manuela.
Hi, Manuela.
Hi, my name is Manuela, and what are your favorite poet devices?
Favorite poetic devices. That's like the tools that poets use. So I really like, and I talked about it a little bit, I really do like line breaks, which is where a poet decides where to go to a new line, because that helps a reader know where to pause a little bit. So line breaks for me are very important. I like repeating words. I like using repetition. I like using my senses, so language of what I smell and taste. I like that figurative language. I like comparing things to other things. We call that metaphor and simile, and I really do like rhyming. But I'm very careful with rhyming. When I write a rhyming poem, I have to make sure that it makes sense. So I wouldn't say like, this is a pillow and it is not Millow. Millow's not a word. If I make a rhyming poem, I really try to make it make sense. For me, that's an important thing. So I kind of like them all, but some days I'm more in a mood for one than the other. But I do like my poems to make sense. Oh, and with repeating, when you write your own poems, if you ever don't know how to end your poem, look at your first line. Sometimes it's a really good last line. That's a tip I like.
Thank you. Next question is from room 3C, Bento.
Hi, my name is Bento, and I have big questions. Why do poems don't have rules?
Did you ask why don't poems have rules? That's the
Yes.
question? That's a great question too. These are all such really interesting questions. Have you heard that before, children in South Buffalo, that poems don't have rules? Lots of times when people talk about poetry, they say poems don't have rules. And I guess I would say one of the reasons why poems don't have rules the way that some other kinds of writing that we write have is because poems can be short, poems can be long, poems can be serious, poems can be silly. Poems can rhyme or they don't have to rhyme. Poems can have long line breaks or short line breaks, and we can decide. So there are so many choices that we can make in poems. It's like art. If you make a painting, it can't be wrong. Now, it doesn't mean everybody's going to like it. Like I can write a poem and you might not like it, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. So people have, with art and with poetry, people have favorite things they like and things they don't like, but it's not wrong. It's just like you have a taste, you have a personal favorite kind of poem or a favorite kind of art. And I guess maybe that's one reason I like writing poems, because I don't feel worried.
Our next questions are from children at South Buffalo Charter School. They were
Are they
written,
here or?
they were written by children who are at the school right now, but they're being asked by children who are in the classroom with us.
And hi to everybody at South Buffalo Charter School too. It's just so nice to have your friends here and to know that you're here in spirit. I'm glad we have your questions.
So the first question was written by Nathan M. and it's being asked by, well,
Well, got room on my chair. Thank you, Nathan, for your question.
Where did you get Bessie your writing trailer?
That's a great question. Well, I used to have this little camper named Betsy. You've seen pictures? Silver and blue. And I used to teach a lot of lessons out of Betsy. And I bought her one day. I was driving down the road and she, Betsy, was at the end of somebody's driveway. And it had a sign that said for sale. And I said, I want that trailer, but the man wasn't home. So I put a note in it and I said, please call me. And he did, and then I bought it. So Nathan, that's how I got it. Always look by the side of the road. Sometimes people are selling interesting things.
our next question is from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question was written by.
That's Nathan right there, sorry. And Miss Zaglakowski is
Good to see your face. Thank you for your question.
And this question is being asked by John.
Where are you, John? Come on up. Have an owl. Let's hear it. Do you look at nature when you write about nature? What a good question. Yes, I do a lot. Sometimes I imagine it, but usually I go right outside and do it. So yes, absolutely. And I bring my notebook with me, or sometimes I bring my phone and I take pictures. And then I can write on a rainy day and even about something on a sunny day. So photographs are really helpful too. Great, thank you. Thanks for babysitting.
Hey, and we have a question written by Noah T. and this one's being asked by Ezra.
Ezra, one of my favorite poets is named Ezra. So
How long have you been writing poems?
how long have I been writing poems? I was telling a couple of the guys over here, I first remember writing a poem when I was in 6th grade, so a few years older than you, because I had a teacher and we wrote poems in class and he hung them in the hallway and I wrote about mothers. I was thinking about my own mom because I have a nice mom. So that's the first one that I remember. And then I just used to always write in my notebooks all the time. And then I stopped writing poems, but then when my kids were little, I started writing them more. So thank you. Thank you, Ezra.
And
Thank you.
That's Noah in that.
Oh, there you are. Hi, thank you for your question. Thumbs
So
up.
you know all these people.
What's up, Noah?
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for asking such smart questions. And thank you for all your answers to Amy. They were wonderful, so interesting. And as a token of our appreciation for Amy's time today, Buffalo State University would like to donate copies of Forrest Has a Song to both the South Buffalo Charter School and the School of the Nations in Brazil. And we have a special visitor at the School of the Nations from Buffalo, Dr. Kelly Garris York. There she is. I see her in the back, and she'll be passing out copies.
She has a copy of the book right there.
Of Forrest Has a Song. Thank you so much, Dr. Garris York. And here are the copies.
And I see another book there. This book, may I say something about this book? This is a book for the teachers, right? This is a book called Literacy Moves Outdoors, and I saw it there, and I got a little excited because I didn't know that your school would be getting this book. This is written by a lady named Valerie. And when I went to college, at a college like this, like Buff State, it was a college called Teachers College, Columbia University, and I was learning about being a teacher. And when I was there, this lady, Valerie, she was, I said, my favorite teacher there. And she wrote this book, God bless you, all about reading and writing outside. And while we're friends, and while she was writing this book, she would send me an email and I would send her an email. And I actually did a podcast with her. I interviewed her about this book on the publisher website. And so this is such a good book. It's about reading and writing and taking that second and third life outside, and lots of ideas and ways to do it. So teachers, it's gold.
So this concludes our visit with Amy Ludwig VanDerwater, and we want to thank her so much.
Oh my
for
goodness,
her-
thank you.
And we also want to thank South Buffalo Charter School and the School of the Nations in Brazil for joining us today. It was so wonderful to bring everyone together and share our love of poetry. You can stay connected with Amy through her website, amyludwigvanderwater.com,
And I have lots of poems, most of my poems every Friday. I put a new one at the Poem Farm. And you can see there's a tab there where I've recently made 10 videos about writing poetry. And one of the things I love to do is also publish student poetry at my website. So if any of the children at the School of the Nations or at South Buffalo Charter School have written poems and your parents say it's okay, let me know. And I would love to share them with my audience at the Poem Farm too.
thank you, wonderful. Have a great afternoon, everyone. And the most important thing, keep reading and writing. Goodbye.